Hey everyone, welcome to the Email Marketing Summit 2025. I feel stoked to be here and to hopefully get you one step closer to crafting those impactful emails. So, without further ado, let's check the agenda for today. So, what we will cover today? First, why email? What's the place of email in the overall marketing ecosystem, so to say? Then we'll cover the email production with a little overview of all the parts and all the stages of the process. Then we'll go deeper into the weeds with strategizing, copywriting, design, implementation, QA, and then launching those magnificent emails. So, in the first place, before we start talking about how to craft the emails, like why email? Why is email so important, and how does it fit in your arsenal, marketing arsenal, when it comes to the different channels? So, when we talk about the email assembly line and where does it all start? It's not with writing a piece of copy. First, we have to understand what's the place of your email program in the overall brand ecosystem. It's only one of the tools in your marketing arsenal, but one could argue the most powerful. And why is that? Because you own it. You don't rely on algorithms and on platforms. The list is yours and you can pretty much take it anywhere. It doesn't matter what ESP you're on, you can just take it and go in another place. So it really makes sense to make it the centerpiece of your marketing system and make everything possible to get all the other channels to support it. Also, the other very important aspect is that email should never exist in a vacuum. Having a holistic approach is what will get you the highest ROI. So, finance, including unit economics and margins, inventory, operations as well. It has all this has to do with email in one way or another. So, keep this in mind when you're creating your email strategy. Now that we have this out of the way, let's see what the entire process looks like. So here is a brief email production overview. So it all starts with strategizing. This comes first. So whatever you do, like if you don't have a vision in mind, if you just like start writing a piece of copy and you don't have a goal behind it, you won't get very far. So this is where you need to start. The idea of the strategy and that creation of the strategy is to uh, align everything you ideate with your business goals. Then, second comes copywriting. So, writing content that resonates with your audience. Then, the design. Very important to visualize that content in a way that supports it and makes it more powerful. So, with the design stage, we don't want to take away from the copy, but to enhance it, so to say. Then comes implementation, so putting everything together in your ESP of choice. And finally, QA and launching. So the launching could include scheduling campaigns or sending automations live. It doesn't really matter. The idea here is to make sure everything is functioning properly, is aligned with the brand, and then hitting that send button and sending it to your list. So strategizing. Let's talk about what this looks like. So it all starts with aligning business goals with your email program. Do you want to focus on revenue generation? Of course, that would always be the main goal. And how do you achieve it considering other aspects of the business that we mentioned before? Do you want to get product feedback, understand your customers better, ideate product development? There are a few other examples where email could be a powerful ally. And even though they're not direct revenue generators, they do affect the bottom line in one way or another. It's important to understand your audience and make content that resonates. What are their pain points? What is their ideal future? How does your product get them the desired transformation? All information about your avatar should be readily available for your email team, and they need to be familiar with it in order to meet your prospects, customers, where they're at. Finally, brand identity. What are your values and how do you incorporate it with everything else so it's consistent with all the other communication that you're putting out? You see how all of this gets us close to the next stage. So ideating and briefing the messages, be it email campaigns or automations based on a particular touch points, are going to make it easier for you to write with substance, so to say, right? At the end of each section, you see this kickstart the process part. So the idea here is to get you some action items that you can start applying right away and ideally see some results and quick wins if possible. So when it comes to strategizing, what can we start with here? So what are your goals and how can email support them? Start by thinking about that. Then complete an audit of your current setup and find missing touch points, areas for improvement. So of course, this would be a little bit different if you have a comprehensive setup or you're starting from scratch, but it makes sense to do a periodic check on your situation and see if something has changed. So, for example, it could be purely informational, so maybe you need to change the content of an email, or it could be something that has a bigger magnitude, like, for example, a rebrand where you need to edit and design a lot of emails so they align with your new brand look. Then consider review mining. So that can help you get deeper insights on what customers like, wish for, would like to see improved. So how this work is like just gather all your reviews. So it doesn't really matter positive, negative, just get everything in there and run it through an LLM model and see what insights you can come up with. This could be very powerful and help you better understand what content resonates, what are some strengths, weaknesses, what people like, don't like, what makes them smile, or are there any areas for improvement? There are a lot of tools out there that you can use, but you can also like create your own thing, just export everything in a CSV and run it through an AI model. Then create a swipe file. So this will help you monitor competition emails and stay up to date with your industry. Of course, what's important here is to use it for inspiration. Don't like copycat. Just see like what you can apply to your use case and make it work for you so it helps your unique situation. Checking other industries makes sense as well if you like, for example, a particular brand, even though it's not your direct competitor, because you can use it again for inspiration and just coming up with ideas and angles for emails. Now, how you can do this is just create a dedicated email address and subscribe to the brand's newsletters and get all the emails here. You can categorize them so you get them in different folders. In this way, you can keep track of everything easily. Another option would be to get on some of these email sites, for example, like Really Good Emails or New.com, which gives you the ability to actually follow brands and see all their email communication in there. There are some other options as well. So whatever works for you, but it really makes sense to stay on top of how everything goes in your industry in terms of email. And then last but not least, incorporate AI to help you with ideation, help you with recognizing some patterns, recognizing some deeper insights, and pretty much it could also be applied to help you in some way with all of the above that we mentioned here. Just what's important is to actually take your time and create a comprehensive setup so you feed as much information and data as possible, because this will give you the best results. So take your time, get a person to help you if that's needed, get someone that understands it, and put in effort to actually make it the best setup possible. So next in the email assembly line, if we go back to the process, we'll see that's copywriting. And that's a really important part because that's really where the magic happens. This is where you actually make your audience take action, right? So let's go to copywriting. So copywriting, of course, now that we know how the strategizing stage goes, You ideally have created a very nice brief about the email where you explain everything that needs to be covered there in detail, along with some other important information that needs to be kept in mind. So then comes copywriting. So copy starts really with the subject line because that's what your email readers see first. So that's something that you should not neglect and really like take your time to craft them in the best way possible along with the preview text. If you have already existing emails you've sent, you can analyze them and see what worked, if you can see any patterns, and try to replicate it as much as possible so you get most out of your open rates. So it all starts with the subject line. So what's important here is to make sure that the subject line grabs the attention and hooks a person's curiosity to open the email. So you really don't want to give away everything the email is about the subject line, but you want to drop a hint so they're intrigued enough to open the email. So for example, something like this may look like lose 20 pounds with these 3 daily habits. So this hooks the curiosity of the reader by calling out a core problem, right? Then preview text. So the preview text is really there to support the subject line, and that's where you get the most bang for your buck. So you want to make sure that it's like an extension of the subject line. Of course, sometimes this is not a set rule, so you can. It's not necessary 100% of the time. But for example, like if we go back to the lose 20 pounds example with these 3 daily habits, you can then have the preview text to be in just 60 days, right? So this kind of like connects it with the subject line and gives a set timeline. Another thing is like you can also use personalization, so you can add your customer name, or you can add a product they bought, for example, if it makes sense. So that's something that could also be a nice touch if you add it here and there. Then next in line would be the headline, subheadline, and the CTA. So when a person opens an email, you really don't have a lot of time to get there, to capture their attention, right? Attention spans are decreasing pretty much like, I wouldn't say like every week, but I don't know, like probably every month with how overwhelmed everyone is with information and platforms and communication coming from all different sides. So you really want to put in effort to craft your headline, subheadline, and the CTA that you're about to include in your email the best way possible. So your headline needs to capture their attention, should be clear, and really explain what the email is about in a couple of words. You don't really have time to write long sentences here, so you need to be short and precise. The idea here would be to get them to continue reading the email. You can state a problem, for example, and then a solution that resonates with your audience. And this is how you can create like an interplay between the headline and the subheadline. So the subheadline, similar to the preview text and the subject line, the subheadline could expand on what you have in the headline. The other important aspect here is don't forget to add call to action in your first part of the email. That's very important, so people can actually take action once they align and they see that the information there resonates with them. It just gives the user the opportunity to take the action we want them to make right away, and we want to do this for almost every email. Of course, there would be some exceptions, but it's a good rule to have a CTA above default in your email. So above default means once you open the email, you directly see the CTA. So you don't need to scroll, you don't need to move the email, you don't need to do anything, you just see it right away. So that's why it's important to have all this information in there. So for example, if we can like give an example for a good headline, subheadline, and CTA combo, it would be something like, for example, is that your tummy grumbling for the subject line, then the preview text for the headline, I'm sorry, and then the subheadline could be, well, there's still this fresh food waiting for you in your cart. And then the CTA could be complete your order, right? Or something like this. Then body copy. So for the body copy, we need to make sure that the brief instructions that we already created in the strategy stage are followed. So the purpose and the goal of the email is understood, and there is an angle that actually supports that purpose and goal. Then is your copy actually targeting the problems and desires of the customer avatar? That's really important. You need to speak their language, otherwise nothing really matters. And then is your copy highlighting the emotional benefits of the product? So good e-com email copy and just email copy in general won't list the features and specifications of a product. It will target the emotional benefits. So for example, if we're selling supplements, what we're selling really is better health and vitality. We're not selling pills, right? If we're selling beauty products, we're selling confidence. So once you switch the perspective and think about it like this, then the copy is so much easier to write and so much better. Then another important aspect here is how do you organize your copy. So it's best to keep it short, sectioned, and visual friendly. And you want to do this because if persons are scanning through the email, you want to give them the opportunity to find the information they want to, and if they find value in this information, to be able to read it. Because if there is no structure, it's not organized in a neat way, it will be just like a wall of text, which actually affects conversion in a very negative way, and also like how they extract value from what they read. So that's really important to have a structure. And then if applicable, you can add product blocks. You can also include social proof. This is something that you can pretty much never go wrong with. Then next, CTAs. So CTAs are very important. So in order to have CTAs that actually help you get your point across, help you get your customers to do the desired action, you want to use creative and product specific language. For example, you can think of what the product is and make the CTA the action of the product or the benefit. So, for example, instead of shop now, if you're selling jump ropes, you can say something like jump to it. Or if it's something that has to do with cars, it may be like something like let's ride, right? Then, for example, for learn more, if it's like an informational type of CTA, so to say, you can switch it up and say tell me more or see for yourself. Or then if it's a free trial you're offering, you can go, for example, instead of start a free trial, you can say something like try it at no cost. So switching it up in this way makes it more interesting. And then the other important element here is to have a CTA in pretty much every scroll of the email. So you really don't want to overdo it, but at the same time, you want to have something that the reader can rely on if they want to see more information. So once a section ends, there should be a CTA which can get them to do the desired action. Otherwise, it would be like they want to do something, but there is nothing that can actually get them there. So that's really important. Like, don't overdo it, but at the same time, place them strategically. Then offers. So if the goal of the email is to give your readers an incentive to drive an action, make sure you're making the offer bold and clear. It should be very understandable. There shouldn't be any guesswork here. So you can highlight it with formatting, all caps, bold, large text. It should really stand out and be very clear, so there is no guesswork around it. And then some extra tips. So follow guidelines. So no false claims. Um, don't use the coupon codes as CTAs. This could be a little bit confusing. Also, it's good to have the CTAs to be able to be copy pasted. Of course, you also can auto apply them. This is a little bit more into the technical side of things, but make them copy pastable, so to say, is also very good. And then use scarcity, like expiry, stock limits. That's always a good tip, but what's important here is to actually be credible with what you're saying. So you don't want to use fake expiry or anything of this sorts, because then if a customer actually understands that this is BS, it could have a negative effect on how they view you. So those are some important tips here. And now my favorite section here, Kickstarter process. So you can use copywriting frameworks to help you with jumpstarting the process. Why? Because like those are like really some formulas on what to cover in your content. So for example, like a copywriting technique or a framework could be the first one. So fear, uncertainty, doubt. This gives you like some guidelines, what to write about, uh, how to do the content, like in terms of what to go after what in terms of like the chronological order. Another one, for example, would be the PAS, problem agitation solution. That's another powerful one. But there are like numerous of these, so you can just go online and search for some copywriting frameworks, and you'll be able to find a lot of those. Then with the advent of AI and like all the technology, it just makes sense to have an agent at this point, like to help you with drafts, because it could provide very valuable ideation. Again, here the setup is very important, so the produced content is aligned with your brand guidelines and expectations, and you still need to check their output. Um, there could always be like some little issues here and there, or even like some major ones. So, like always make sure you're double checking the final product. And then finally, you can create a do's and don'ts for your email team, so they know what is an absolute must to cover in the copy and what's something you want to stay away from. And then another important aspect is to organize the information you have as feedback. So maybe like something worked in a campaign in terms of a from content perspective, then make sure like you keep track of everything and you put it in a doc or a place that's available for your team to check like what worked, what's something that we don't want to cover, what's something that maybe backfired. So we have this information for them, and they can use these insights and produce better work. And just to sum up everything, here is a nice example of a well-written copy. So this is something like a win-back email, also could be considered a little bit of a sunset one. But you can see like how clear and how smoothly everything flows here. Just take your time to read it, and you'll see here is the bold headline. Then you have the copy. You don't really see a CTA here, but that's the nice thing about actually uh, understanding what elements convert well, so you can like actually break the rules from time to time. Because here we don't really want to be transactional. We want to be like really gentle. So you see how the link is a hyperlink here. And then, of course, we give them the option to unsubscribe here. Uh, and it's like really a really nice and like smooth flowing email, very minimalistic, not a lot of design. It just like complements everything, and the signature just adds that personal touch. And next here, if we go back to the email production overview, after the copywriting, there is the design stage. So that's really visualizing the content and optimizing it for conversion. So design, as we see, like the design really, from the points we see here, it really just builds on top of the copy. Like if you have good copy, then the designer would have a blast just creating the design and like being creative and like doing his own or her own thing, because then you have the right structure, and then the copy will be used as the backbone to actually creating a visually appealing email that gets the point across and just synergistically works with the copy content, right? So again, very important. Above the fold section, um, the header, the subheader, and the CTA button, they should all be visible right away when a reader lands in the email. So you could have this in an image. You can have it as text. It really depends like how you set it up. But if it's an image, just put everything inside the image. Then very important, emails should not be text heavy and they should not contain walls of text. This is mainly when we talk about e-commerce emails because we need them to be very visual. So it's about showing, not telling. Our email copy should be short, punchy, and packed full of personality that matches the brand voice, so we can disguise that we are selling in a way, right? So we're more helping than selling, educating than selling, right? Of course, this could vary. For example, if you have a newsletter that's purely informational and it's only text based, then of course you could have like walls of text or like longer paragraphs. So it really depends on the use case, but in general, that would be the rule. Then CTA placement. So we really want a CTA above the fold, ideally in the hero image or the first image you see after you open an email. One at the very end of the email is also very nice to have, and then in each scroll in the email there could be one, depending on how the content goes. Of course, if from a design perspective sometimes the content doesn't allow it just doesn't look good, of course feel free to skip it. Then product blocks. If the goal of the email is to sell products, then we should be showcasing products in the email, have CTA buttons with them so they can like quickly check the products. Users are more inclined to buy if they can see products and can easily click through the product pages in our emails. And then last but not least, if the goal of the email is to sell, then help visualize the sale. So what can we add in there to make it extra sweet for the reader so they cannot really like miss out on this offer? So is it like best free shipping? Is it like a guarantee or maybe a warranty icon that we have? Are there any certificates that prove the quality of the product? These visual selling cues, they don't require many words, but one image or a review can really speak volumes and drive the sale. The main goal of the design, again, is to support the copy. So we don't want to over design unless it fits the brand. Sometimes we have like these super colorful brands with a lot going on, which is all right. So really like depends on the situation. Again, everything is situation specific, but we want to let the design breathe, so to say. So we want negative space, we want white space. We don't want to overcrowd everything so it's hard for the person to actually like see and navigate to the important elements from a design perspective that we want them to navigate to, right? And then comes also the point about HTML and image-based emails. So image-based emails are created with image slices. So the whole email really only contains images. So all the text is in images, all the buttons are in images, like pretty much everything you have in the email is an image, and then it slides into different sections so you can click on the different parts and go to the website. That's one way to do emails. The other way to do emails is, of course, HTML, which is a classic one, and which, in my opinion, is the better one. And why is that? Because, like, when it comes to the future of email, what's really important is like accessibility, interactivity, and customization as well, right? And those are some things that image-based emails really don't give you the flexibility to play around with, right? And then we also want to be inclusive, so people can view the emails as they want to view them, like read them on screen readers or like zoom in the text to make it bigger, which are things that are kind of limited in the image-based approach. In most ESPs, you would have the option to use drag and drop blocks, so it's not coding per se, so you don't have like to code the emails, you would just drag and drop, and I would always recommend using this approach. But of course, images also allow you to be really good with design, so you can do like some really amazing things in terms of design, which in HTML, like if you want to make them with code or like with this plug, sometimes it could be hard to do them, but of course like a mix could work pretty well. So just be deliberate with what you're using and how you're using it, and make sure it's aligned with your audience and how they actually experience your emails, because that's a big part of email. And then last but not least here, it's kickstart the process. So think about designing and like how efficient are you actually with design? How does it look like? Like, do you start from scratch every time? Or do you have like some blocks that you're using that you save in your designing platform of choice? So be it Figma, be it Photoshop, be it something else. So when we go about this, a modular design system could work very well. So what does a modular design system do? So you have like different types of blocks, different types of content in modules, and you have them pre-saved. Then this allows in your platform of choice for design to just like quickly drag and drop blocks, customize them, and be very efficient with email creation. And just giving your team the ability to execute emails faster. Of course, we don't want to take from the creativity of the designers, but with having a modular system, actually, I feel like it could even give them more space to be creative, because they don't have to worry about the things such as like how to do certain outlines, like what type of blocks to have. They just have them available. They can like quickly experiment and see what works and what actually makes sense for the particular email and email topic that they have at hand. Then also the pre-saved blocks would streamline implementation, especially if you have like those translated from your design platform to your ESP. So you have them as saved blocks in your email platform, and they are aligned with what you have in your design platform. So you can like, whenever you create something, some design or just like a mock-up, you can easily recreate it in the ESP. Now this goes a little bit more into the implementation section, but it's important because it goes hand in hand with design. And then again, create design do's and don'ts for your team. Like, what is something that that we want to absolutely have in our designs in terms of elements, in terms of approaches, in terms of maybe design trend, and what's something that we absolutely don't want to have there. And of course, if you have feedback, accumulate that with time, it would be a very powerful piece of information that can be very helpful for, especially when you're onboarding, for example, new designers to the team, or you're getting a new person to start doing design for you. Or even if at some point we start creating emails with purely AI, that could also be a very powerful piece of information to feed the agent or whatever it looks like in this not so distant future. And of course, let's look at an example of a really well-made email. So like we discussed, all the different sections, headline, subheadline, CTAs, how you organize the text, what actually the copy is talking about, and then how you visualize it to get the point across. So let's see here. In this email, for example, you would see a very nice hero section. It gives you the information that this email is about right away. So this is like a bigger package of an already existing product. You can see like a very bold headline here, some nice visualization here. Then you have the CTA. Then you have some nice copy on why actually it makes sense to get this particular package size. You have it visualized in a very neat way here. Like one package equals 3 here. Then you have another sub headline here. You see this is like another heading. So this is just like regular body text. You have a heading here, then you have another heading here. You have a nice kind of lifestyle pic, you can say here, again, highlighting uh, the value prop here. And then at the end, we finish again with the product and then with another CTA. So you can see how the sections are like clearly separated here, but at the same time, there is like a really smooth flow to the email. So it's not like you're just adding like section on top of section. It really like flows nicely. And it just gives like a good feeling when you scroll through this email. And the design like really supports the copy. That's what's important. So you can take another look of everything here, see how it was created. We're making good progress here. So if we go back to the email production overview slide here, you'll see that next we have implementation. So that's all about building the emails in your ESP and then leveraging everything it has to offer in order to have a better workflow and also make a really nice looking and really nice performing emails. So implementation, like people can see it as the most boring part because at this point it's just about actually putting the email in your email service provider, but actually it could be way more than boring because like if you have the technical proficiency, it could really give you a strategic edge. So if you understand your ESP well enough, you know all the features, like all of the advanced features in there and like how to actually like utilize them, it could be very powerful and actually like create a full loop with strategy, because like some features can actually ideate strategy because they can give you ideas to collect data, for example, to enrich profiles, how to create, how to collect feedback, like all this interesting stuff. So it makes sense to put uh, effort into actually like learning all the advanced stuff that you have available for you in your ESP, so that you can use it in very creative ways. So yeah, master the ESP tools for advanced features, and then testing as well. Testing is really important, especially once you get to a certain level, you have all the fundamentals in place, you have everything set up, and you have a nice email program in place. You can start actually testing more stuff and see what can move that needle further. Then Kickstarter process. So really important, like whenever you start creating emails, or even if you've created emails for some time and you still don't have it and you just like find yourself cloning old emails, old campaigns, it makes sense to create a base email template. So this is like a default template which you use for every campaign send, be it an automation or be it a campaign email. Then you select this email template and then you edit it as needed. Why is this important? Because when you have a base email template, maybe something changes. Let's say you change your address or something in the footer, or maybe something that's not even like dynamically populated content, like whatever it is, maybe the logo, whatever it is. When you have the base email template, you just change it in there, and then you use this for your future sends. This way, you can never go wrong, and you know that you always have the latest information in terms of like how things look like in your ESP. So base email templates, very important. Take time to create them, like make them as thorough as possible. Like you can include all different types of blocks and then later down the line use them as you see fit. So the modular system that we discussed in the design stage, that's also really important because like we talked, it goes hand in hand with implementation. So design and implementation, that would be something that if done in a way that a modular system can help you with, it could be very powerful. So you have all the pre-saved sections and you're like really efficient with how you create emails and how you actually implement them, because implementation could be time consuming and it could save you a lot of resources. If you think about setting it up once, it could take you some time, but then the long-term benefits would be well worth it. And then finally, stay current on ESP and tool updates. So if you are on a particular ESP, check their knowledge base consistently. See if there is like any way to subscribe for updates so you get all the latest features. And also, feedback is really important. Like if you see something in the ESP that's not done properly or could be done in a better way to serve you better, uh, get in touch with support and like share this. It's a lot of these features that happened for different DSPs because of the people that actually use the platform. So keep this in mind. We are slowly but surely getting to the last stage of the email creation process here, which is QA and launching. So imagine that you have the perfect email created and then there is an issue or something doesn't work in the email. That would be a complete disaster, right? You put in all this effort, all this time to create a great email, and then something doesn't work and it just flops. So that's why this stage is really important in order to ensure flawless execution. So, like mentioned, small errors, broken links can break campaigns. So QA is non-negotiable. It's really important to check different devices. So as you probably know, most emails are opened on mobile devices. So it doesn't really make sense to only check desktop and how it looks on desktop. It's just the other way around. Like you need to check mobile first and make sure everything looks great there. And even if there is like a little trade-off between desktop and mobile, always go for mobile first. So everything should look as best as possible on mobile devices. This also would include dark mode checks. So dark mode could break some emails and make them not look legible, readable, or whatever the case may be. So it's really important to check dark mode as well. I would always recommend just like sending a preview email to your email and just checking it, or you can use a platform. There are numerous platforms that can help with these QA checks and can actually help you see emails in different email providers. That's also important because the different email providers may render your emails differently, and it's good even if you don't do it every time. At least like you do it once so you can see like what different sections could be problematic, because otherwise you would just like do something that would be bringing problems on and on, right? So from time to time it's always good to check different platforms. Some ESPs now even have it natively, so you can like check how emails display in different devices. So that's really a great feature, and it's not something to neglect. And then decide on the structure. Like how would you have QA? Would it be like the person actually implementing email that does the QA? Would it be a separate stage, so to say, like a dedicated stage? It doesn't really matter. Like what's important is to have it as part of the process. That's something that's not skipped, because like we said, like a simple small mistake could be a big headache. And then launching, like once you make sure those emails are great, they're working great, then it's time to launch. So this would mean scheduling campaigns or activating automation. Now, it's really important when you do that to actually see how that push of a button will affect the customer journey. So if we're doing campaigns, like are they distributed appropriately during the month? So what's the cadence? Like, does it make sense for your target audience? If it's an automation, like how does it affect the customer journey? Does that touch point overlap or interfere with something else? It could be something coming from the ESP, where you create emails, or it could be something that's coming from a third-party app. So maybe something like a review request, or maybe something like a loyalty notification, or a subscription order notification. Like always keep in mind how adding something in your structure affects other parts that are already existing. Because the worst thing we can do is actually have emails that clutter the journey, and it's not clear for the customer like what information they should focus on when they get bombarded with emails. And I see this a lot, that over communication is there when it comes to email programs. So you don't want to have, for example, campaigns that are sent for profiles that are currently in flows or automations, because imagine that you have an automation or a flow that has 5 emails. It's like a sequence, right? And then all of a sudden, in the middle of the sequence, you get a campaign email. This just breaks the flow and just the hierarchy of the information and the content that you're sharing in there. So think about this and put the customer journey first. You can never go wrong if you do that. And the final Kickstarter process section here for the QA and launching stage. So create a checklist as a guide. That's really important. Like a checklist gives you predictability and gives you a guide that you or your team can rely on so they don't forget to do something, right? So a checklist, even better, like if you have a project management platform and you can create it in there so it can actually be checked right there on a task or whatever you use. That's really important because you have something that you can rely on, and it's easy to miss like some simple thing that you do it over and over again from time to time. Of course, like at some point it gets automatic, but it's always good to have this, and especially when you get new people to start working and doing this part of the process, it's even more important. Then make sure you check the different devices, mobile first, and then dark mode. That's always great. And then align with the customer journey, like do a quick check. Whatever you're setting live, how does it affect your existing structure? For example, if it's like an automation that's triggered by a certain metric, just check everything that's triggered by this metric. If there are like some specific time delays in automation, see how these time delays actually correlate with other flows that are in existence. So maybe like a longer delay on one flow can make it bleed, so to say, into another automation. And campaigns as well. Like, do you have your cadence in check? Like, are you oversending? Are you undersending? That could be another situation as well. It's no set rule like how to do it. Like there is no like set number of emails that you can send. It all depends like on your situation, your type of content, your variety of content. So take the time to actually analyze and audit this when it comes to sending your emails and hitting that send button. And this really concludes it. So that's pretty much it when it comes to understanding how the email assembly line goes. Of course, like this is just an overview of how the different sections go. Like there could be efficiencies found in the processes and how you actually do them in what, like the order is pretty much this, but like how you actually combine different ones. So it really depends on your team, in how you set up your team responsibilities and everything. But this should be just a guide, a good guide in terms of how responsibilities should go. And then you can be as creative as you want to in order to create even a more streamlined structure and a better way of creating emails. So just keep this in mind. Everything can be improved and everything can be done in a better way. It's been a blast for me to share all this information for you, and hopefully you've been able to learn a couple of things, or just like maybe see things in an organized way and how they could flow smooth, right? I would love to chat with you. Like if you have any questions, if you have anything, any feedback, whatever it is, hit me up on LinkedIn. Send me a DM and let's chat. All things email. Let's see if there is a way like to improve your system, like how you create your email creation system, or whatever that comes around it. And then last but not least, I have a little giveaway for you. So if you connect with me and DM me Marketing Summit on LinkedIn, I have a briefing template ready for you, plus checklists for the different stages of the email creation process. So you make sure you don't miss anything that's important when it comes to strategizing, creating copy, creating design, implementation, QA, and setting live. Once again, it's been a pleasure to be here with you, and hope you enjoy your day. Bye for now.